Good morning. It's not afternoon. Good morning. Good morning. This is Tina C. Hines, Life Transformation Specialist, guiding emotionally wounded women who are on this journey from hurting to healing to happiness. Well, we just had a phenomenal, uh, intimate conversations and had a special guest of Wendy Y. Bailey. And the topic of conversation was one that many of us deal with, and I'll say women only because that's who my community caters to, but the fellas, they also deal with it as well. So I'm just going to just share this, and if you are someone who is watching the replay, please simply write hashtag replay. But I wanted to just come and share with you some of the points that we addressed during um, the intimate conversations. And if you are someone who is interested in intimate conversations, it takes place every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern, every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Zoom. Intimate Conversations is a safe and sacred space for women that focuses on issues that we deal with as women. Intimate Conversations is never recorded due to the nature of the topics that we discuss. And as it should be, initially it started out as a discussion on Facebook, but very quickly I recognized that what we were discussing were sensitive topics that perhaps the women who were joining them didn't want their information recorded, which is why I made the decision not to record them very long ago, which is also why I made the decision to take it off of Facebook. Um, so I created Hylanet. I created Intimate Conversations because there needed to be a safe and sacred space, an outlet, if you will, where we can address topics of what the elephant in the room, the purple elephant in the room that's in the corner, because we continuously brush things under the rug. We don't discuss about physical abuse. We don't discuss emotional abuse. We don't discuss rape. We don't discuss love. We don't discuss relationships. And we put we shine more of a positive light on the positive things that are going on versus the not so positive. So today the topic of discussion was thriving with mental illness, and our amazing guest was Wendy Y. Bailey. And she took the ladies on a journey, her journey of suffering from depression, and also discovering on her journey about being an empath. And she shared with us the myriad of challenges that she faced on her journey of depression. And, you know, there were some things that resonated with not just myself, but with the women who made the decision to wake up this morning and join the discussion. And one component of that was very relative was about the cocktail of prescription meds that people are given when they are suffering from emotional trauma, when they're suffering from clinical depression or depression. And being also an advocate for yourself and your loved ones, and recognizing that there needs to be a support system that's going to help you on this journey because you cannot go it alone. She also mentioned about making the conscious decision to, if your healthcare professional is not listening to you, to be okay with, I like to say, firing them and finding someone who understands the challenges that you are facing, who can relate to being really, in essence, personable, to listen to what you are telling them. Because the one thing we all need to keep in mind is very simple. I am not like Lynette. Lynette is not like Cherie. Cherie is not like Tina. We all experience things differently. So our reaction to the cocktail of drugs, the connection that we're going to make with the healthcare professional is always going to be unique based on your specific circumstances. And it's important that you say it's okay if someone does not work with me. And so when she shared that story, it resonated so well because I could remember going from therapist to therapist to therapist, trying to connect with someone who got it. Because what happens sometimes is when we are going to healthcare professionals, they're treating everyone the same. And we're not all the same. Our body makeups are not the same. Our family history is not the same. So you can't treat everyone the same. What may work for one person may work for another, but what may work for another person may not work for the other person. And that's when it comes to you really being your best advocate, even in the midst of your turmoil and trying to process everything that you are dealing with emotionally. You know you better than anyone else. You've been walking around with her for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So you know you better than anyone else. And if something does not feel right, be okay with voicing your opinion. Be okay with writing it down and saying, this is a behavior that does not look like me, does not feel like me. It's something I have never experienced before. Be okay with saying no. So this discussion, it really hit home for a lot of the women who showed up. But the sad part about it was the women who did not show up, was the women who many of us have had conversations with and recognize that there may be a tinge of depression. Either they have experienced it or they are experiencing it. And it was not possible for them to show up for themselves. So let me be perfectly clear. You're going to go through a myriad of emotions in your life. You're going to have friends and family members who do not understand it because they have not experienced it, or they have, but they have yet to address it. And so intimate conversations is creating space for you to come and be in a space with other women, perhaps just like you, who are dealing with situations that they want to address, but they just don't know how, that they want to address that perhaps they've already shared and they didn't get the answers that they truly need. And so what happens is we meander around social media looking for that big quick fix. And sometimes social media is pulling you into a downward spiral of even worse of what you're dealing with. And when you think you've connected with that person that could help catapult you to wherever you desire to be, that can give you the resources that you need to get you to where you desire to be, and then all of a sudden there's a shift. Ladies, you have access to resources. And when you recognize that you have access to those resources, you will start asking questions. There are no such thing as stupid, dumb questions. You have to be okay with being open. You have to be okay with, I don't always have to save face for the people on my social media feed who don't truly know me and have no desire to get to know me. Because when you put up a facade for other people, you have to continue walking in that space of putting up a facade. And then when we talk about people are not posting who they post to be, you're creating an image that you want people to look at you as, instead of being realistic. And the conversation that we had this morning on Intimate Conversations about thriving through mental illness, about the challenges that we have faced as women, about experiencing awakenings of being an empath, of having this magical gift. These discussions need to be taking place. You can't be hiding in the corners, peeking in whenever it's convenient, and knowing that you need support and knowing that you need help, and keep telling yourself, no one understands me, when there is someone who understands you. But the reason why they don't understand you is because you've been hiding behind the elephant in the room, unwilling to have the conversation. You're right. Everyone, they are not going to get it. And sometimes it's not meant for them to get. But when you connect with those people who fully understand what you're dealing with, why won't you continue holding on to that connection? Why won't you say, you know what? I need your thoughts on this. I need some suggestions of how I can get through and out of this. But the funniest thing, we will ask opinions and thoughts about some of the most mundane, stupid, crazy ass shit. But when it comes to our emotional well-being, we sit back in the cut. We don't ask for help. We don't want anyone to see that we're vulnerable. We don't want anyone to know any part of that side of us, because we're always trying to save face for the next person. One of the things that I shared with the ladies this morning, I said, I attended an event, and at that event, I was just dumbfounded, because I sat in the back of the room. I didn't really know anybody in the room, never met them. There was somebody who was on TV. I had no clue of who she was, because I'm not into it like that. But as I'm watching these beautiful made up faces with beautiful clothes and beautiful hair and everything on the exterior looked great. But as they walked across the stage, I felt the brokenness. I felt the attempt to get healed, but the healing work had not actually taken place. And I was sharing this morning with the ladies. I was like, you probably wondering, well, Tina, how do you know this? And I simply said, it's in the dialogue. It's the way they are articulating their journey. And listen, for anybody, therapy is not taboo. Therapy is taboo for those people who don't get it. Therapy is taboo for those people who don't get it, who think everything can be healed. That's just the starting point. Just this, the starting point. But if you are not taking action and be an active participant in your life of healing, you're walking across the stage still hurting. You don't have to tell somebody the ins and outs of what you've endured in your life. But don't be camouflaging it and sugarcoating it to make it sound pretty, so you can appear that everything on the outside world is great. We talk about your story is your connection, but not the fake story that you are painting for people. It's about the true story, the story behind the story that you're telling everybody. I can see a myriad of women walk across a stage, walk in a room, on my timeline, and I'm just like, you're still there, girlfriend. And trust me, I don't do it intentionally. Some of it just permeates through. But when discussions are taking place, you have to be willing to show up for yourself if you truly want to be healed. You have to be willing to even show up for your sisters, so you can support them on their journey of healing, because they're looking for someone like you. They're looking for someone who's their story, like, oh my God, Denise, I've had that same experience. Nina, me too. I found someone who gets it. I found someone who They're not going to judge me because they've been judged and they've been coming through it and out of it as well. When you sit back and you keep camouflaging and sugarcoating your story, why? Who are you trying to impress? What don't you want them to truly know? You don't want them to know that you couldn't get out of bed for days at a time? You don't want them to know that you've been struggling? You don't want them to know that you've been going through therapist after therapist, that there's a cocktail of pills sitting on your counter, and you're hoping that one day you just don't take one too many? You don't want them to know that? You don't want them to see you at your worst because you keep showing them your best? You're trying to impress who? Do you know your truth is part of your journey of healing? Do you know when you help just one person, it's a part of your healing? But you still want to stay stuck in your pain and paint a false picture that I just prayed over it and everything was okay. It's more than that. You talked to somebody. They gave you a word that pushed you out of your pain. You read a book. There was a message in that book that got you out of your mess. There was something that happened outside of your prayer, and your sister, who is trying to get out of her mental illness, needs to hear it. She wants to hear. She needs to hear more than you prayed about it, than you journaled about it, that you meditated on it. There's something more you did that you're not telling. And you're doing your sister and yourself a disservice. On your journey of healing, you're supposed to help somebody else heal. It's not about you doing it alone. Because you came out of it for some reason. You came out of it somehow, whether it was one thing, two things, whatever it was, whether you had to detach from some people who were leeching onto you, feeding you with more of their misery, whatever it was, you did it. And now it's your time to help them. Stop being selfish on your journey of healing because you're supposed to help another woman. You're supposed to. Whatever it is that you're going to be sharing, it's going to help them. And they need it. They're waiting on you. You may keep thinking, but oh, it's insignificant. But it's not. You didn't just wake up one morning. It didn't just miraculously happen. There was something you said that was your breakthrough. Something you did that got you out of it. That was the trigger that woke you up. And in order for you to keep pushing forward, you owe it to yourself. Because guess what? At any moment, you could be back in that space. You recognize it when it comes. You recognize it when certain, what's the word? Not symptoms, triggers. You recognize when something is not quite right. My favorite saying, I've seen this movie before. I know how it is. You know what it is. You know when you're up here and you start getting down here. If you haven't shared this live, share it with your sister. You know okay, wait a minute. I'm seeing some similarities. I'm seeing that I can't get out of bed for days at a time. I'm seeing that I'm eating more. I'm seeing that I'm eating less. I'm seeing that I'm tired. I'm seeing that I'm crying. I'm seeing it happen. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. So what do I do to get back? Because I got out of here before. And that's what you need to be sharing with your sisters. It isn't about you being their therapist. It isn't about you being their coach. It's about sharing your experience so they know I'm not alone, Denise. I'm not alone, Brandy. I'm not alone, Nina. I'm not alone, Cherie. I have women just like me. Depression is real. And just because you acknowledge that you have dealt with it, come out of it, still deal with it, doesn't make you less than a woman. At some point, you're going to have to be okay to telling your real story, not the one that you keep painting a glossy picture for people on social media who could give two shits about you. My journey has been real. The journey that Wendy Y. Bailey shared today, it was real. And many of us have been very transparent about it. And the transparency helps. Perhaps you're not the person who, I don't feel comfortable sharing it. But on your journey of healing, you're going to have to at least share it with somebody who can help you. So you don't stay locked in a space holding keys that you can use. So as I shared with the ladies on Intimate Conversations, and I will share with you, if you or someone you know is suffering from a mental illness, I encourage you to seek clinical help. I encourage you to create a support system. But I also encourage you, if you can, to be a support system. I want to wish you all a phenomenal, phenomenal Sunday. Take care.